Magandang umaga, Pilipinas. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining around the world. Welcome to today's webinar, where we will try to solve inadequacy of effective community adaptation responses to climate change. We are streaming to you live through SEARCA online learning and virtual engagements platform, or SOLVE, via Zoom and Facebook Live. My name is Kim Bantayan, and I am a program specialist of the Training for Development Unit under the Education and Collective Learning Department of SEARCA. I will be your moderator for this morning's webinar. The short video shown earlier has given you a glimpse about SEARCA and what we do. SEARCA is hosted by the Philippine government in the campus of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. So we are coming to you live from Los Baños, Laguna, the special science and nature city of the Philippines. This SOLVE webinar is SEARCA's immediate response to the emerging impacts of the COVID-19 global pandemic on food security by maximizing the use of information and communication technology platforms to inform, educate, and share evidence-based solutions and tested technologies, as well as best practices on the ground. If you are new to this webinar, this is actually the 36th webinar since it was launched last April 28, 2020. SEARCA's 11 five-year plan, 2020 to 2025, identified enhanced agricultural and rural development towards climate resilience as one of the priority areas that would accelerate transformation through agricultural innovation. Today's webinar features two of SEARCA's Seed Fund for Research and Training, or SFRT grantees, who will share with us the results of their research studies on the Philippines' climate adaptation finance and the irrigation scheme, which shapes the local agro-ecosystems as well as coastal communities' livelihood activities in two communities in Vietnam. Before we proceed to our online conversation this morning, please allow me to quickly go over some statistics gathered from the SOLVE webinar titled Solve Public Info Insufficiency on Genome-Edited Crops, held on September 8, 2021. The infograph shows that 62% of our online attendees were female and the rest were male. It also indicates that nearly 170 individuals tuned in via Zoom and more than 300 individuals viewed the webinar through SEARCA's Facebook page. Lastly, we are happy to note that we've had online attendees not only from the Philippines, but also from Australia, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, Timor-Leste, the United States, and Vietnam. Let me now go over the program flow, which is currently shown on your screen. After my introduction and a few housekeeping rules, we will have our first speaker, Mr. Rhomir S. Yanquiling, a visiting research fellow at the International Climate Change Center and Development based in Dhaka, Bangladesh. But right now he is in the Netherlands. Mr. Yanquiling will open our online conversation with an interesting presentation on unpacking climate adaptation finance at the local level, the case of the People's Survival Fund in the Philippines. Mr. Tran Van Hieu, lecturer, Faculty of Agriculture and Natural Resources, An Giang University, An Giang Province, Vietnam, follows with his presentation on freshening the coastal zones in the Mekong Delta, state society contestations in navigating rural livelihood pathways. I know you are all excited to listen to our speakers, but let me first encourage you to send us your questions. How do you do this? For those of you who are tuning in via SEARCA's Facebook page, you may type your questions in the comment section. Kindly indicate your location now and or country of origin. If you are tuned in via Zoom, please post your questions or comments in the Q&A box, which you would find in the menu bar on your screen. Kindly indicate your location and or country of origin as well. Our SOLVE team will collate, curate, and compile those questions, and I will convey them to our speakers. We hope that we will be able to cover as many questions as we can in the time remaining. Please be clear when you are posing a question to a specific presenter, or if it is a general question that anybody can respond to. We will do our best to get as many questions as possible during the open forum. Kindly refrain from posting your email address in the comment section. You can provide this information to us upon responding to our evaluation form and e-certificate request. The link will be posted at the end of the webinar. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and will be made available on SEARCA's Facebook page and YouTube channel. We would like to encourage our first-time online attendees to please like SEARCA's Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. By doing so, you will regularly receive updates on our learning events, webinars, and recent publications. Today's presentations will be uploaded on SEARCA's website at www.searca.org. The slides shown during the past webinars have already been posted there. For your social media posts, especially on insights or takeaways from this webinar, please use the hashtag SEARCASolve. So let's keep this conversation going online by using the hashtag SEARCASolve. If you have issues or are experiencing technical difficulties with the Zoom online platform, please contact us at solve@searca.org. I repeat, please contact us at solve@searca.org. Moving on to today's discussions. Our first speaker this morning is Mr. Rhomir Yanquiling, who is currently a visiting research fellow at the International Climate Change Center and Development, Dhaka, Bangladesh, where he is conducting research on ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction initiatives under a UNESCO Keizo Obuchi Fellowship. He graduated with a joint European Master in Comparative Local Development Studies with a joint consortium of the Corvinus University of Budapest, Hungary, University of Ljubljana, Slovenia, University of Trento, Italy, and University of Regensburg, Germany, university as an Erasmus Mundus scholar. He also attended the Certified Expert in Climate Adaptation Finance program of the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, Frankfurt, Germany. He was chosen as a fellow for the 2019 Switch Asia Circular Economy Leadership Program, jointly administered by the United Nations Environmental Program and Tsinghua University, Beijing, China, and the 2019 Accountable Resource Governance in Asia Pacific by the Natural Resource Governance Institute, or NGRI, and the Gajah Mada University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Here to unbox and unpack climate adaptation finance at the local level, the case of the People's Survival Fund in the Philippines. Please welcome Mr. Rhomir Yanquiling. Sir Rhomir, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be invited to this conversation and to share you the result of my research, which is entitled Unpacking Climate Adaptation Finance at the Local Level, the case of the People's Survival Fund in the Philippines. So without much ado, let me jumpstart my presentation. So the Philippines is considered to be one of the most vulnerable countries in terms of extreme weather events. And annually, if you're going to look at the result of the World Risk Index report, the Global Index report, and other organizations, always you can find the Philippines in the top 10. As you can see at the topmost portion of the slide, this is the effect of the super typhoon Haiyan way back in around 2013. This is before and after the onslaught of super typhoon Haiyan in Tacloban. It is interesting to note that annually the Philippines experience like around 20 typhoons, and 4 of these is considered to be catastrophic in character. It is in this context that the Philippine government has enacted a law that is geared towards building resilience to the community at the local level. And this brings forth the People's Survival Fund. The People's Survival Fund is unique in a number of ways, in as much as it is sourced out from public funding, it is intended for the local government units, and basically it's not only intended for building resilience to the community, but it has this added complementarity of reducing poverty and enhancing the disaster risk reduction management activities at the local level. So as a brief backgrounder, in this particular conversation, allow me to divide my presentation in 3 bullet points. First, I'm going to talk briefly about the People's Survival Fund, then go on discussing the research results, and then finally, some policy implications and conclusion. So what is this People's Survival Fund? As I have previously mentioned, the People's Survival Fund is considered to be the flagship program of the Philippine national government that is intended exclusively for climate adaptation activities. And how does this work? So essentially, this is intended for local government units and local community organizations. The local government units passes climate adaptation project proposal to the PSF Secretariat, which does the initial screening. And after the initial screening, the PSF Secretariat forwards this one to the Climate Change Commission for further study and deliberation. The Climate Change Commission serves as the endorsing body of all climate adaptation project proposals. And then this eventually reaches the People's Survival Fund Board, which is the approving body of all climate adaptation project proposals. So today, from 2015 to 2018, at the time the study, within the time frame that the study was conducted, there were like around 6 PSF climate adaptation projects, and most of them are like on food security and water security. Essentially, with the use of qualitative and quantitative research, I intended to map out the possible barriers in the implementation of the PSF in 3 perspectives: policy, institutional, and operational, and then try to determine the main reasons for the success and failure of some local government units in accessing the fund. So I conducted some qualitative assessment of the PSF as a policy per se. Firstly, the PSF as a policy is drafted around a legal policy constellation. So prior to the enactment of the PSF, there are already laws that have been passed by the Philippine Congress that encourages the conduct of climate actions at the local level. Say, for example, we have the Climate Change Act of 2009, Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act of 2010, and we also have some policy level documents like the National Framework for Climate Change Adaptation, the National Climate Change Adaptation Action Plan, and so on and so forth. Moreover, it is interesting to note that there also exists, institutional mechanisms at the national level that more or less supports the effective implementation of the People's Survival Fund, such as Climate Change Commission, which serves as the policy-making body for climate-related actions. We also have the Climate Finance Group, the executive branch of the government, the Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation and Disaster Risk Reduction, among others. Finally, on the basis of the qualitative assessment of the climate change policy on the PSF. I would say that the PSF as a policy per se is compliant with the good principles of climate governance along 4 areas. Example, the ease of implementation, then the legitimacy, coherence, and transparency. So at least theoretically of paper, the PSF policy, and other surrounding legal policy documents on climate change adaptation are compliant along these 4 components. How about the success? Well, so what are the crucial factors that account for the success of some local government units in accessing the People's Survival Fund? Basically, it is important that local government units have this ground support system from the stakeholders and inclusive and meaningful public participation of the community itself, concerted efforts between the LGU and non-state actors. So when I speak of non-state actors, I am essentially referring to, like the university, knowledge institutions, even the civil society organizations, which more or less helped local government units in the drafting of climate adaptation proposal, their local climate change action plan, and other documents necessary to access the fund. And equally important, probably if not one of the most important, is the top level management support from the local chief executives. So this political will and leadership, political buy-in on the part of the local chief executive in order to get the climate adaptation project pursued on the ground are pivotal for the implementation of climate adaptation project. So what about the barriers and the main problems in the implementation of the PSF? I would say that one of the most crucial hindrances in the implementation of the PSF still something to do with information gap about what is climate adaptation, what is the People's Survival Fund all about, and alongside with this, the capacity gap and the administrative readiness of the people at the municipality level. So apparently, while the national government has passed Climate Change Act of 2009, the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act, and even the People's Survival Fund law, there are still some municipalities which do not have local institutional structures that will more or less give flash or implement these laws on the ground. And even they lack adequate number of personnel with the required competence and skills that will help implement climate adaptation actions. More often than not, people on the ground are designated on the certain activities that pertain to climate change. So this more or less impedes them from effectively conducting climate change adaptation activities at the municipal level. And I also found that there is no enabling guidelines for private sector participation, although there is a provision in the Climate Change Act of 2009, as well as in the People's Survival Fund law, encouraging private sector participation on climate adaptation actions. This is how I map up I come up with this situation map that depicts or illustrates the action and interaction of the different actors that are involved in the implementation of the People's Survival Fund from the national level to the community level, and how these interactions could more or less, impede or obstruct the effective implementation of the People's Survival Fund. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to discuss it in detail. What about stakeholder engagement on the climate adaptation? Stakeholder engagement is considered as a crucial ingredient for the effective implementation of climate action at ground level. I would say that there's still much work to be done in order to maximize the engagement of the public with regards to climate adaptation actions, that while some local government units make or have made meaningful headways to engage the community to climate adaptation, there's still this urgent call for the local level to step up to the plate, so to say, insofar as engaging the public to climate adaptation action is concerned. Therefore, engagement should not end in information dissemination per se, but should go beyond by engaging the community starting from the day one during the planning stage up until the implementation stage. There is also a need to improve public communication by highlighting the impacts, the local and immediate impacts of climate change and the benefits of adaptation action. Here are some policy implications. I would say that building capacity and giving correct and adequate information about climate change to the local level remains, a low-hanging fruit, ready to be reaped, so to say. It is also equally important that certain local institutional structures and arrangement should be set up at the local level, such as designating a focal person or an entity for climate change action, creating maybe an organic unit or multi-sectoral or interdepartmental committee that will possibly give flash to the implementation of the PSF and other climate change related laws, and partnership with knowledge organizations in order to build capacity of our local government units, and precisely the importance of close collaboration with the primary stakeholders on the ground. And to get the PSF, the private sector, to get on board on climate adaptation actions, there's also a need to provide for, guidelines on private sector participation and create probably portfolio for, climate adaptation projects through which private sector could participate. So I came up with this policy tree. So the issue that is being resolved, the low adaptive capacity and the weak resilience of agricultural communities. And key to this are three-pronged strategy that involves capacity and knowledge support, institutional support, and funding support. All of this could be made possible by helping local government units to access climate adaptation finance like the PSF and other possible external funding. There you go, a system diagram that tries to explore these policy measures. I'm not going to discuss them in detail for the time's sake. And now, let me go down to my conclusion. The overarching conclusion that I found out in the study is that while the PSS program is still it is still a work in progress. While there are constraints, there are hindrances or obstacles, there are reasons to be optimistic in the future. That's all from my side. I am turning over the screen to Kim. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Sir Rhomir, for presenting to us the barriers and policy recommendations and enabling environment on the case of the People's Survival Fund, which is considered as the Philippine government's flagship climate adaptation finance program, which is also designed to integrate adaptation activities to resilience building, disaster risk reduction, and poverty alleviation in poor and vulnerable local communities. Sir Rhomir highlighted the fact that access to adaptation finance and building local resilience must be prioritized, considering how vulnerable the Philippines is to climate change. However, improving the governance and institutional architecture of the People's Survival Fund is still a work in progress. But Sir Rhomir also pointed out that while there are constraints in its governance and implementation, there are reasons to be optimistic in the future. Again, thank you, Sir Rhomir. We'll talk to you again in the Q&A. Our
Yeah, thank you
next
so much.
speaker, yes, our next speaker is currently a PhD candidate in development studies of postgraduate program at the postgraduate program Andalas at the Universitas Andalas, Indonesia. While pursuing his graduate studies, Mr. Hieu is also a lecturer and researcher at the Department of Rural Development and Natural Resources Management Faculty of Agriculture and Natural Resources, An Giang University, Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Mr. Hieu's research and projects mainly focus on agricultural economics and natural resources management, environmental economics, and sustainable livelihoods in mainland Southeast Asia, the Mekong region. He earned his Bachelor of Arts in Agricultural Economics and Rural Development from Can Tho University, Vietnam, and holds a Master of Science in Rural Development. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Tran Van Hieu, who will talk about freshening the coastal zones in the Mekong Delta, state, society, contestations in navigating rural livelihood pathways. Mr. Hieu, the screen is yours.
You can see my slides.
Yes, Mr. Hieu, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So today, the first I would like to thank for SEARCA organization to support funding for this research, and also thank the SEARCA organization create the opportunity for me to sharing our research. So today I would like to sharing with our research outcome about the rationing the coastal zone in the Mekong Delta, state society contestation in the navigating rural livelihood pathway. This will address the contestation between local government and farmer in terms of using the water resources management to their improve livelihood in the farming activity. So we understand now it's Mekong Delta Hill affected by the saltwater intrusion and sea level rise. As we know that Benche also one province belong to the Mekong Delta also affected by the saltwater intrusion now, and to order control the saltwater intrusion and supply water rate for agricultural and also the supply for domestic consumption. The government they build the irrigation scheme to achieve that goal. And the objective that we have general objective and so many specific objective. What I would like to highlight that this recent I sharing the how the irrigation scheme to resent the contestation between local government and farming community in terms of water use for improve their livelihoods. And in terms of this research process, we select the case study in the Benche growing. As you see the map, on the right side, we select two commune, one commune that representative for the freshwater ecosystem landscape. People they focus on the freshwater cultivation, like for example, like rice farming, sugar cane, and freshwater, especially for aquaculture, like catfish, and another commune representative for like low stream, that representative for the salinity water landscape ecosystem. They focus on mainly on the stream farming and attentive farming for the stream. So between two communes, we have the bar-line irrigation stream. You can see the map is two commune and bar-line irrigation stream between of two commune. This picture I took at the when we were go to study site. And about the collection data method, we will interview 50 interview and 6 focus group discussion involved in the 3 level at provincial and district commune, also local farmer to discuss about this issue. And we see that now is irrigation by stream that a permanent for Mekong Delta now, and in the last 50 years, we have two mainstays. The first day, my government want to the support for Spain agriculture production to make sure that the national food security. So the government try to afford to build more dye and canal to address the red water into the sea. And the next day, from the 2000, the government begin to control salinity water and support and supply red water for agriculture production and consumption. They begin to build the stream, and Balai also the case to build to develop this. And also now is the government to have the campaign to restore red water and to supply for agriculture and also supply for domestic consumption. And through the research observation, we can see that very distinguish between before and after the stream will be built. The part I would like to say that very trend about the landscape ecosystem. Like before, we have the salinity environment, salinity water, but after we change to like red water, so farmer they want to do not on only the stream, but also they focus on the red water ecosystem. For example, they cultivate rye crop and sugar cane, coconuts, and also cattle. So they less rocket water and also less exposed salinity, we change to environmental. So Thành Phước, we have the also change the landscape of activity, livelihood activity and landscape environment. So they meet the red water and rocket water for the stream farming. They also expected the water pollution from the upstream like Thành Trị affect to the Thành Phước for their farming activity. So this will be contestation between government and local community. We see that Thành Trị now government they have planned to develop the some model based on the red water system, like farmer they do banana and fry, also some model that belong to the red water system. But some people they follow this rule, but some farmer they don't follow. They try to convert to the generational farming like stream farming they do before. So they claim that this model can, the good model now because it's good markets, and they earn, when they do the stream farming, they earn high profit compared with another model. So when the people they do cultivate stream farming, they invest this pump well that they attract the groundwater on the for stream farming now. So this activity, the local government, they don't allow to do this, because if farmers continue to try to develop stream farming to get the groundwater in the ground, so that will be more effect to the ecosystem for red water now. And also they like to allow to, because local government they have land to develop agriculture model be pay on the red water system, but some farmer they want to allow to convert this model to change to the traditional model that will be make the change ecosystem between red water and salinity water. So you see this picture that this is Thành Trị commune that belong to the red water system, and people they can cultivate like coconuts, banana, some vegetable, but some farmer they also to continue the stream farming in the red water, but rather than they use it before on the salinity water. So because by on my research, I have the study limitation is we, due to the COVID pandemic, we cannot to do the survey household, so we cannot under the full picture in the context of my study. So next time we will do the household survey, and also we conduct more research on how we analyze the cost benefit in terms of using the barley irrigation stream to get to understand the whole picture in this area. So by on that, we have conclusion and recommendation that the barley irrigation stream that represent for the contact between local government and farmer community in terms of using water and conduct cultivation agriculture to improve for his livelihood. So the farmer also they try to import that the stream farming, that the good model to improve their livelihoods. Otherwise, this area should be developed in terms of red water system. So by on conclusion and my finding, we have some recommendation that we need to formulate the institution arrangement to show contact between local and farming group in terms of using resources and develop agriculture development in local. And also we have the policy to government the change ecosystem that we need to manage in terms of short-term benefit and long-term development goal. And we need to cooperation between among of government across need to, because when this irrigation stream will be built, we have expect upstream and downstream, because a lot of farmers they use pesticide and for the their production, so affected downstream. So on beyond the my finding research, we have also partly published the agriculture journal and the total environment And we have also the submit the policy brief for SEARCA, and now we submit the manuscript for journal rural study, and we waiting for their approval. And this is some of the photo that we took by a study site. Yeah, that is my presentation today. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Hieu, for your presentation, which highlighted the importance of collaboration and dialogue between local government and farming communities towards achieving consensus and harmony to address competing demands for fresh water supply and high income generating livelihood activities such as shrimp farming. We are happy to know that your research has produced one referee journal publication in Elsevier's Science of the Total Environment. There is a policy brief coming up. I just learned that there is a policy brief coming up and other refereed publications because of this research study funded by SEARCA. Congratulations to the research team led by Dr. Tong An Tran, who now serves as an honorary lecturer at Fennell School of Environment and Society College of Science at the Australian National University. Congratulations to your team. Thank you, Mr. Hieu. Again, may I remind our online attendees watching the webinar via Facebook Live to please start typing your questions in the comments section, including your location or country of origin. So I repeat, please include your location or country of origin for those of us viewing this webinar via Facebook Live. If you are tuned in via Zoom, please post your questions in the Q&A box, which you will find in the menu bar on your screen. Kindly refrain from posting your email address in the comment section. You can provide this information to us upon responding to our evaluation form and e-certificate request. The link will be posted at the end of the webinar. With that, let us now move on to the open forum. So let me shoot the first question to Sir Rhomir. Okay, Sir Rhomir, in your study, I read that you mentioned that capacity, bureaucratic, and technical issues were among the reasons why some local government units failed to successfully access the People's Survival Fund. You said components of the project not classified as adaptation, issues involving political will and political buy-in, and mental attitudinal barriers from project stakeholders. In your own opinion, how do we move beyond these barriers, especially during this pandemic? Sir Rhomir.
Yeah, that's a very good question to reflect upon, Kim. I think we have to consider that climate change issues, while they are, issues at the national level, it is the local level that felt the most impact of climate change. The thing is, climate change issues are very complex, and there's no single institution that can grapple on the complexities of climate change. Hence, when we deal on climate adaptations at the ground level, it is not the concern alone of the local government unit, but a concerted and collaborative efforts of all institutions involved. So you bring in the national and local government to, pass inclusive climate change policies and support, financial support, for instance, technical support. You bring in the knowledge institutions such as the university and civil society organizations in order to bring the science behind the policy and support for technical capacity as well. And finally, our local communities, our farmers, fisher folks, women, for the local actions on the ground. So what I'm trying to say is that climate adaptation actions at the local level should be an opportunity to promote cooperative practices and to engage on the building of collaborative institutions. Yeah. So in the case of, for example, on capacity gap, I noted that some of the local government units simply do not have the adequate manpower, the expertise required, because when you formulate climate change adaptation proposal that is technical in character, you need to have at least knowledge on the technical dimension, such as vulnerability and all this stuff. And of course, the engagement of the public stakeholders. So some of the local government units who are able to access the fund are more or less supported by civil society organizations in drafting their climate adaptation proposal, to come up with their local climate change action plan, and so on and so forth. So this partnership with knowledge institutions are of great help in trying to, bring climate adaptations in a very concrete and a tangible level. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Rhomir. So what you're saying is that there should really be what do you call this? A partnership between the civil society organizations and also the community, right?
Yeah, that's
And the local
one.
government. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So,
one. And another, if I may add, another thing is that, I also noticed that it is equally important for the local chief executives to give their support to climate adaptation actions, because without this political buy-in, I do not see the possibility of implementing climate adaptations on the ground.
how about the private sector, Sir Rhomir? Where do they come in?
Yeah, that's really a good question that, that has been the subject of discourse, both in the international and the national level. There exists what we call adaptation finance gap. In as much as there exists an adaptation finance gap in all its manifestations, there is a need to get the private sector on board. Say, for example, under the People Survival Fund law, it encourages co-creation, co-production, and public-private partnership with the private sector. So that means if you engage the private sector on climate adaptation actions, it will more or less galvanize action between the public, the private, the state, and the non-state actors all together on the same ship, so to say, on the forging climate adaptation actions.
Yep. So it's really a public-private partnership, to move this forward, these climate adaptation actions. Okay. Thank you, Sir Rhomir. We have here a question from Dr. Pedcris Orencio for both of you on monitoring. Was monitoring of adaptation interventions conducted? Who does the monitoring, and what were collected, and how were these reported, integrated for further programming? Maybe we could go first with Mr. Hieu. Mr. Hieu. Was monitoring of adaptation interventions conducted, and who does the monitoring? What were collected, what information were collected, and how were these reported and integrated for further programming in the case of Balay irrigation scheme? Mr. Tran? Mr. Hieu, I mean.
Yes. Yes, thank you for your very good question now. And I would like to respond that in terms of my case study, as in terms of monitoring when the Balay's irrigation view, the government will be monitoring this issue. Like before, they also have the plan to build, and not only in the Bến Tre but also in other provinces in Mekong Delta now. But the Bến Tre is the first experiment to build on that, and the government also continue to build some irrigation stream to another other province now. So the government, they monitoring in terms of like national level, but on province and district and local community, they monitor at the local level. So that that is in terms of the monitoring, but in terms of operation and the local people, they depend on the real situation, so they can operation the stream to develop like agriculture, production, also environmental. Yeah, that is my response.
Thank you, Mr. Hieu. Sir Rhomir.
Yeah. Most of the projects that are funded by the People's Survival Fund are, of course, under the the monitoring and evaluation of the Climate Change Commission. I understand that Climate Change Commission has its own monitoring and evaluation unit that goes into that looks into the progress of the different projects funded under the PSF scheme. Although it may also be, could also be argued or commented that the project implementer or the agency, the local government unit themselves, have their own project implementation and monitoring unit to oversee and supervise the implementation of the PSF climate adaptation project. So in the case of this PSF funded projects, regularly, periodically, they submit their progress report to the PSF monitoring and evaluation unit.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Sir Rhomir. Follow-up question on policies. Were there policies that supported the interventions, or were policies put forward emerging from the adaptation measures? Were there policies that supported the interventions, or were policies put forward emerging from the adaptation measures? Sir Rhomir.
Yeah, I would say that the last time that I have visited the website of the Climate Change Commission, a lot of changes has already taken place, and they have been making meaningful headways in terms of capacity building, because they already have this e-clinic. It's an online mentoring and learning platform that allows the local government unit to participate on the climate adaptation, what do you call this one, the mentoring activity. And even the Climate Change Commission itself has a knowledge platform and resources wherein local government units could access them, because they are publicly available online. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know, Sir Rhomir. How about you, Mr. Hieu? Were there policies that supported the interventions? Were there policies formulated?
In terms of the policy supported, we know that the Mekong Delta now is affected by the on the dry season. On the dry season, that zero rise also affected by the salinity water intrusion in the Mekong Delta. So many community in the coastal zone will be affected on the like they lack of water for consumption. So the government try to control also water quality, but also they get the small red water for supply for their consumption in the local coastal zone community. That is the main purpose for that, but also they try to encourage people to adapt, to change their pumping system before they try to adapt with the salinity ecosystem. But now the environment landscape and ecosystem change into the red water, so people must adapt to the they will change their like activity like farming in terms of red water, not in salinity water now.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Hieu. There's another question here on systems connections. So what were the major elements or factors that determine the adaptation initiatives? Now, who were instrumental in the process and what were their contributions in the successful implementation? Okay, so talking about the People's Survival Fund in the implementation of the PSF. So Rhomir, what do you consider are the major elements or factors which determine this adaptation initiative?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Yeah, I think this, looking at the climate change issue would require, looking at system thinking, as they say, and that rings through to climate adaptation actions at the local level. I think to address that particular question, if I may cite the example of the climate adaptation project in Hirona, Tarlac.
Yeah.
This particular project is conceived as a partnership of a various number of institutions. Say, for example, the Forge partnership with the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical PAGASA, the meteorological agency, which helps them provide local climate data in order to guide the farmers on how to possibly time the calendar of the planting season with the changes in the local climate or the microclimate of the place. And in order to help them to craft up or come up with a good climate adaptation project proposal, they also forged partnership with a non-governmental organization, the RISE Network. So in a way, this particular organization helped them to capacitate their frontliners on climate adaptation actions, climate change issues, local climate adaptation action plan, and other related documents that are to be submitted to access the climate adaptation finance, the People's Survival Fund. And of course, I would say that there's also strong support at the ground level. I'm referring to the stakeholders, the farmers, and the fisher folks. It so happened that this particular municipality is an agricultural municipality, which depends primarily on the produce from the farms. So, the complementarity between the local climate adaptation initiative and the interests of the farmers at the ground level, at this confluence, they come up with a good climate adaptation project.
Yep. So thank you so much, Sir Rhomir. So what you are saying is that there is really, the key here is the complementation or the collaboration between the civil society organizations, the stakeholders, the farmers, and the local government unit, right? In the case of Hirona, Rice Action Network, R1, was instrumental, right?
Yeah, so you could see
in determining this the success of the adaptation initiatives.
Yeah, precisely. You could see this triple helix of cooperation between the national government, the local government, the non-state actor, the civil society organization, then with the help, of the meteorological agency of the Philippine government, PAGASA, who provides or assisted them on the crunching local climate data. So all these complementarities, collaborative efforts help them to come up with a good climate adaptation project.
Yes. Thank you, Sir Rhomir. How about you, Mr. Tran? Who do you think were the major actors, or what were the major elements or factors that determine the success of all these adaptation initiatives in the Vietnam Mekong Delta?
Yeah, I think that now is major that the local government they are the main matter for other like stakeholder. Like if the local government they have strategies for adaptation also in terms of like using water resources and agricultural production, they have planned to do in terms of short term and long term. So they must dialogue and involve multiple stakeholders like enterprise business sector, also local farmer. So the local government they have strategies for their for their development, but the business that to build a bridge between local farmer to the market, and also the farmer try to like changing their in terms of capacity, in terms of aware of their perception, because that now we think that economics and environmental change now this is too much adapt with not also like climate change, but also the new situation. But the farmer is the core that is the core stakeholder that must be changed to adapt with, and in terms of improve capacity and also improve with technique and try to develop markets by themselves. For example, that like before they similar to the like salinity farming system, but now we change that at the red water, so the farmer must be adapt to this, not also to convert to traditional farming that the local farmer the local government they have strategy to do for the red water, but the farmer they want to convert to traditional farmer. That I think that the farmer try to change and they like to adapt with new situation. That's my response.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hieu. So Mr. Hieu is telling us that it's there should also be, collaboration between the local government unit and also the farming communities, and raising their awareness that from getting out of these traditional farming activities to this adaptation, this climate adaptation initiatives that will also raise their income, improve their livelihood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so last question to Mr. Yanquiling. Aside from Herona, is it Herona Tarlac?
Yeah.
Are you aware of other municipalities or other local government units that were able to successfully, access the People's Survival Fund?
Yeah, I think there were like to date, there were 6 PSF funded projects. So for example, there is this climate adaptation project as well in the municipality of Lanusa on Siargao del Sur, the municipality of San Francisco in the Camotes Island in Cebu, and even the municipality of, Quicharao in the Agusan del Norte, and another one is from the local government of Maitum in Sarangani. So, these are the some of the PSF funded projects, and basically most of them have something to do with ecosystem protection, water security, and food security, which are considered to be key priority areas in as far as climate adaptation projects are concerned, or the climate adaptation initiatives of the national government are concerned.
Sir Rhomir, were there efforts to streamline, the processing of documents to access PSF?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think in the first few years of the operation of the People's Survival Fund, most of the local government units really find the documentary requirements a bit hard for them to comply. The thing is, climate adaptation is like a new thing.
Yeah.
It's like a new thing to the local level, because the Climate Change Act was passed sometime in 2009. The People's Survival Fund law was, enacted into law sometime in 2013. But of course, the knowledge, the capacity at the local level is not that on the substantial level, I would say, because climate change issues, climate change concerns are more or less Greek to most of us.
Yeah.
So during the first two years, there were like this difficulty in complying with the documentary requirements and understanding even the process of from submission to the approval stages of accessing the PSF, but I believe some meaningful headways have been already made by the Climate Change Commission in order to simplify the procedure, even relax some of the documentary requirements that are to be required of the local government units. And you could see these significant changes when you go to the website. Some of them have already streamlined in order to, integrate or incorporate some of the findings study conducted by SEARCA, for instance, and other related studies as well.
Thank you, Sir Rhomir. Thank you for that good news that indeed there were efforts, to simplify the procedure. Okay, so that wraps up our Q&A for today's webinar. Thank you, Sir Rhomir and Mr. Hieu, for sharing with us your valuable insights and policy recommendations on how to come up with effective adaptation responses to address climate change through, in the case of the Philippines, through climate adaptation finance, and in the case of Vietnam, it's through the Balai irrigation schemes. Before we close this webinar, may I ask each of our speakers this morning this question. If there is one thing that you would want our online attendees to understand and remember or take away with them because of this online conversation, what would that be? May I start with Mr. Rhomir?
Yeah, I think one important takeaway that I could leave to to our listeners in this conversation is that building the resilience of our agricultural communities through climate adaptation really requires system thinking. It requires coordinated and collaborative efforts of the different institutions. So you bring in the national and local government on board because they bring in inclusive climate change policies, technical and financial support on climate adaptations. You bring in the knowledge institutions to, bring the science behind this policy, inform the policy, and to help our local government units on technical capacity. And finally, you also need our local communities, agricultural communities, our farmers, our fisher folks, for the targeted actions on the ground. So what I'm trying to say is that climate adaptation actions should be made an opportunity to promote cooperative practices and building collaborative institutions, in as much as climate change issues are multidimensional, multifaceted, and complex in character. We need these institutions converging and confluencing with each other in order to tackle issues of climate change. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Sir Rhomir. Very well said. Mr. Hieu, your takeaway message, please.
Yes, thank you for the very good question. And before the end this seminar, I would like to send to all the participants in terms of two key words. The one key word is changing. Another key word is collaboration. And changing that, we know that now is farmer in the Mekong Delta, they face multiple stressors like climate change and economic, environmental change, and also COVID-19 pandemic that are more effect for them. So in terms of that, more of a segment, especially farmer, local farmer need to be changing to adapt with the new situation. And another keyword that collaboration, that if we have to adapt to climate change, also adapt to the new situation, must be collaborate between farmer, local government, and other stakeholders in society. That would be success in the future for our life. That's in my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Rhomir. Thank you, Mr. Hieu, for your takeaway messages. That ends our webinar this morning. But before we close, please let us know what you think about this webinar by following the link to a quick feedback form shown on your screen. The same link will direct you to the request form for the e-certificate. Your feedback is important to us. It will help us improve our online learning events. So it's now shown on your screen. the link to the feedback form and the request form for the e-certificate. Please join us again for our next online conversation on Friday. So this coming Friday, October 22nd at 10:30 in the morning. This is in line with the celebration of the World Food Day this month of October with the theme, Our Actions Are Our Future. Better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. So for the World Food Day celebration, SEARCA will host the GSID conversations that will tackle sustainable and healthy consumption with Dr. Sharim Karim, Professor of Malaysia Heritage Food and Culture, Department of Food Service, Management Faculty of Food Science and Technology, University Putra, Malaysia. DAAD, SEARCA scholar Gita Adelia Nevara will also share the youth's perspective on sustainable and healthy consumption. This second GSID Conversations also kicks off SEARCA's 55th anniversary celebration. Yes, we are also happy and excited to inform you that the month of November marks SEARCA's 55 years of providing strategic capacity building initiatives for Southeast Asia and beyond. We have lined up several activities to celebrate this milestone, including 2 webinars, one featuring our SEARCA senior fellows with the theme Transformational Leadership in Agricultural and Rural Development. And the other webinar is in partnership with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN. The webinar with IUCN will talk about nature-based solutions and the ways in which these tools can be integrated into development projects, implementation, and monitoring. For more information and details regarding these webinars, as well as the exciting activities lined up to celebrate SEARCA's 55th anniversary, please visit SEARCA's website and check out our Facebook page. On behalf of SEARCA, led by our director, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of you, our esteemed panelists and online attendees, for taking the time to join us today. It has been a pleasure to have you with us this morning. Let us help one another get through this COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that as we go along, we will be able to create a shared vision of a better, bigger, and smarter farmers and farming communities. I am Kim Bantayan of SEARCA. Stay healthy, stay safe, enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Ron. Thank you, Mr. It was nice meeting you. Good
Yeah.
morning. Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you, boss.
We hope to have you with us again in our future webinars, Mr. Hieu and Mr. Ron.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Kim.